What's the question that they ask you most about how you got 3 kids to go D1 and 2 in the NFL?
They want to know, in general, how I did it. I believe in breeding. Look at you. Good athlete. I'm black, mom's white. Now, I don't step on it once. You can't keep stepping on it because you're going to mess it up. You're going to weaken it.
You can't keep cutting it?
Can't keep cutting it. No, you in Brooklyn, because Brooklyn's half. You got a chance.
If I cut it one more time, it's over?
You can't keep cutting it. You got to be careful. You can't keep cutting it. You got to think about that. You know what I mean? No.
I like how he's dead ass.
If I'm black, I got the black gold running through my veins. Oh, I'm excited. I'm just going to find the right person to mate with. Right? And if I'm white, I'm saying, let me get one of these brothers around here. If you want to have athletes. If you don't have athletes, then just go ahead and just spread your seed wherever.
So why'd you cut it once? What else? Because he could.
I know I can cut it once.
Because he's gold.
I got that black gold in me. And Mama got that big chin and big toes. I said, look, ain't nothing wrong with big toe woman.
Big chin. Who says a big chin?
You got to think of this stuff. Some guys don't think of it until later. Go, like I'm standing at Pop Warner. You wouldn't know it. You on the field. One of you guys on the field playing. And I was talking to a guy. Told him this story. He goes, you were thinking about that, John? I go, yeah, you weren't? He goes, hell no. Okay, man, he's little. The wife is little, kids are little, everybody's little.
It's over?
Little. Chicken little.
Little.
Okay, shalom. Kwam Yasha Allah Koholoyum La Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Rakahakadash, double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who rule well, and that by the Spirit taught us His beautiful truth. Just want to say the water to all the H.I.M and Akwaf that's out here sincerely keeping the laws, the statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai to the best of their ability. This is Jachan on the Waf. Just coming at you with another quick lesson, praying that it's edifying by the Spirit. Very interesting comments that the brother was making there, but he has, he doesn't have the wisdom of the scriptures, because your seed line goes through the dad. He's saying that basically he cut it once by him being with a so-called white woman. So, but these guys are Israelites, because they are his seed, right? And he's saying basically if one of them were to get with a so-called white woman, that would be cutting it, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Like clipping part of that gold gene, as far as what he was saying. But that's not the case, because those children are still going to be Israelites, because he's an Israelite. Right? Now, when it comes to size and things of that nature, okay, yeah, maybe if you're dealing with a smaller woman, she's tiny, you know what I'm saying? Kids could turn out to be smaller, if they pick up on, her side type of deal, or not her side, but because women don't have anything to do with the ethnicity of the child. Now, the child can get features from the mom. The child can look exactly like the mom. So they could have actually turned out looking like so-called white boys, but they actually got some of his, the dad's tint, you know what I'm saying? So, very interesting subject, but we have to bring this out because, this is, scripturally, we understand by the Spirit and power of Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, and, through our teachers, our elders, our apostles, they teach the proper way that your seed line goes through who your father is. And it makes sense, man. Only Esau is running throughout the world telling you that you're bi this, you're multi this, you're 10% this, you're 20% that, 30%. That shit is confusion. And the Lord is not the author of confusion. But let's just get Numbers chapter 1. I'm going to get verse 1 and I'll jump down to the point in verse 18. It says, and Yahweh spake unto Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, in the tabernacle of the congregation, on the first day of the 2nd month, in the 2nd year, after they were come out of the land of Egypt, saying, take ye the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel, after their families, by the house of their fathers, with the number of their names, every male by their poles. See, so your seed line goes through who your dad is. That's why when you always see in the scriptures, it's always a genealogy, basically, of men. They'll mention a woman here and there, but she has absolutely nothing to do with ethnicity. It's always the seed line goes through the father, because the children are already within the father in a form of or basically sperm. Basically, those are children already that's swimming within that man. So they have to be exactly what that man is. It's called seed. So the seed he plants into the woman, because she's like ground, or she's like earth, so to speak. She gives that seed the nutrients that it needs for those 9 to 10 months or so. And that seed comes forth, and it's exactly what the father is, because he's the one, he's the seed carrier. It's perfect. It makes perfect sense. It's no different than planting vegetables. If you plant cucumber seeds, you're not going to get watermelons. You know, if you plant, watermelon seeds, you're not going to get corn. You know what I'm saying? So that's the way that the Lord, he created it that way. And it says, by the house of their fathers, not the house of their mothers, with the number of their names, every male by their poles, not every female by their poles. See, in this particular society, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, he has reversed everything. And so he has the woman in this position of as if the child is actually hers, and it's really not. I mean, of course, she's the mother. So feel what I'm saying. That child is actually that man's, because that's his seed. That's him. But in America and throughout, these European NATO, EU nations, Esau, the so-called white man, that's the biblical name for them. They turned everything upside down as far as what the scripture says, because they placed the woman over the top of the man. She's the one that's in the household, that's running every fucking thing. But in our kingdom, that's not going to be the case. She's going to know her place. See? So let's jump down to verse 18. It says, Numbers 1 and 18, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month. And they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward by their polls. So your pedigree, that goes into your family ancestry. That goes off into, what they call a family tree. It goes by your father, man. That's why when a man gets married to a woman, he keeps his name. Her name changes. Now in America, again, you got these people that, they want to so-called, you got these actresses, celebrities that want to keep their last name. They won't change their last names. Matter of fact, Kamala Harris, when she got married, she didn't change her name to Kamala Emhoff, because that's her husband's last name. She actually kept the last name Harris because it sounds more black, so she can fool you Negroes into going out and voting for her. So see, but generally, even in America, even with their bullshit marriage, which is not in the scriptures nowhere, because no one in the Bible has ever got on bended knee with a damn ring in his hand, talking about I'm begging some chick with 4-5 kids by some other guy to marry her, marry him, right? That's not the case, But in this particular kingdom, the woman is just on top. She runs the household. She has it made. That's the reason why you're starting to see so much calamity come upon their asses right now. A lot of judgment is going out on women right now, because the Lord is starting to flip things back over, right? But your race goes by, your ethnicity goes by who your father is. That was just the point that I wanted to make. You know what I'm saying? Now also too, let me see. This came to mind in Genesis chapter, I think that's 6. Okay, let me start at verse 1. Genesis 6 and 1. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. Now this is the point, verse 4 right here. It says, there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. And so when people see that particular verse, because you got Christians that's telling you that angels, fallen angels, and came down from the, fell from the heavens. They had a fight with God one weekend, and they just lost the damn fight. Satan and his third of angels, or whatever they say, came down, and they saw that the daughters of the earth were beautiful, and they just started having sex with the women of the earth, which the scriptures talks about terrestrial bodies, and I forgot how it's actually phrased in there, but there's different flesh. You have flesh of birds, you got flesh of fish, You got flesh of humans. You have, the angels are not in a fleshly body to have sex with women and leave seed in them. So that's going off in itself. But I don't have this BBE in here. Let me see though. Maybe I can get another translation comparison. But the BBE, it says it beautifully as to what's going on in that particular verse. Let me see here, Salakia. Translation comparison. If not, I'm on my iPhone here too. I'm gonna grab that very same one in the BBE. Now in the BBE, the basic Bible English, it says there were men of great strength and size on the earth in those days. And after that, when the sons of God had connections with the daughters of men, they gave birth to children. These were the great men of old days and men of great name. So really what it's talking about is it's talking about the sons of God. Basically, the Israelites before they were being called Israelites. And they was dealing with these women of the other nations. And out of those with them coming together and having sex and the seed that was coming out, the seed basically looked like another nation, but they had the strength and basically swagger and basically salt that Israelites will have. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you'll see somebody like, like the apostles. You'll hear the apostles say somebody like Bruce Lee is an Israelite, because he has too much swag. He got that salt. Of course you got somebody like Patrick Mahomes that played for the NFL. His father pretty much is about the same color as this guy in this video right here. The brown father right here. His father, Patrick Mahomes' father, is about the same color. He has a so-called white wife, and Patrick Mahomes came out the color that he is. Now, when you look at Patrick Mahomes' children, because he married a so-called white woman, now his kids look like so-called white kids. Blonde hair, blue eyes, the whole thing. But they're Israelites. And see, that's what people don't get or understand, because America has taught people that, you can be biracial, you can be multiracial, you can be 30% Irish, 10% Chinese, 1% Mexican, and then all of a sudden you get to this 100% of a bunch of different nations of people. And that's not the case, man. You are exactly what your dad is, man. So I just wanted to just kind of touch on this for a hot sec. I seen it, and it was very interesting, because see, like this ASV version, they had the Nephilim. The Nephilim were in the earth in those days. And also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same were the mighty men that were of old, the men of renown. And basically that's what it really is going off into. Let's get this word giants real quick. It's Nephil, right? Giants, the Nephilim, right? So when you look at it here, it says properly a feller, bully, or tyrant, giant. So you see, like right now today, you'll have somebody like LeBron James would be like a giant of our day. Even though, men were a lot bigger back then. Don't get me wrong. You had men, because you did have like Goliath, which was, 9 feet or so tall. Yeah, men were a lot bigger back then. The fruits and vegetables were a lot bigger. Everything was bigger back then. But as time has gone on throughout these thousands of years, things have dwindled. You know what I'm saying? Like we're, and really in reality, when we get those new bodies, we're going to go back to our natural state. We're going to be very big men, even the women. And we're going to be some large people. But let's get, so it also has H5307, the etymology, to fall, lie, be cast down, fail, to fall. Let me see. And pretty much that's what the scriptures is going into when the Israelites fail. The scriptures talks about we're gods, but we die like, like overall, roughly paraphrasing, regular men. So the sons of God actually fell from our original stature, but in this day and time, just putting it plainly, what this guy is talking about is just not true, as far as him thinking that, if his sons were to marry so-called white women, that would somehow diminish the family line, so to speak. And that's just not the case, because they're still Israelites and they're still going to have that swag. You know what I'm saying? Now, again, Yeah, now say if for instance, them dudes get with some big ass white chicks, because you know it's some so-called white chicks out here that's thick as shit, you know, 6 foot, 6'3", 6'4". And if Jake was to get with one of them, you know, one of them big ass, thick ass so-called white chicks, yeah, now size wise, yeah, you're gonna have some big ass kids, you know. But the talent is gonna all reside on that flavor, that salt that Jacob has, man, that the Israelites had to begin with, because again we have that salt, man, you know. So just wanted to touch on this for a hot sec. I went into, you know, of course the original article was right here, and some of these comments, you know, people are just I can't believe it, but you so-called white people been saying that same shit forever. Matter of fact, you were married within your own family on some incest shit to try and keep your family gene intact, so to speak. Somebody says, listen to your dad. Leave them other nations alone. No rabbits. Now here you go with this one. Somebody says, well, if they want smart kids or kids with common sense, get the white woman. See? Because they really feel as if they're smarter than us. And that's that movie Get Out too. You know what I'm saying? I could be mentioning that movie Get Out. What was going on in that movie Get Out was those white people, so-called white people, they was putting their pretty much they had like I guess it was like a hospital room type of where they was doing brain surgeries right into this in their house. And basically they was taking the brain out of the so-called white man's head and transporting it into a so-called black man's body. And they had the daughter, you know, she was bringing, you know, like these young studs, you know, these young Salakia, not studs, but you know, these young mandingos, I would say, them young champions, you know, from college. You know, when you look at the movie, she had brought a whole gang of Jakes to the crib. So-called white woman, you know, was acting like she liked so-called black men. She was bringing them to the crib, you know, little holiday weekends and shit like that. And you know, her parents was into that, you know, that. But one of the things that stood out in that movie, what the so-called white guy said, the father, he said, only if I had your physicality with my brains, you know, not saying it verbatim like how he said it, but that's what he was pretty much going into, is that how they know that we're stronger than them, but they try and make it seem as if they're smarter than us. No, we're smarter than you as well. We're stronger than you on every level, you know, according to Genesis. Matter of fact, I can end out there. But Esau really believes that they, you know, because they're over us, we know why they're over us. We know that Yahweh Bashim Yahushai set them up, because the Lord sets up kingdoms and breaks kingdoms down and set it up over at the basis of men, roughly paraphrasing that, Daniel 4:17. Right? But you go into Genesis chapter 25. And I'm going to just jump to the point. Let me just jump to the point. Now, these are the twins, Esau and Jacob. Esau is the biblical name for the so-called white race, and Jacob is the biblical name for the so-called black race, which are Israelites. Genesis 25:23, it says, and the Lord, Yahweh, said unto her. And when we say Lord, L-O-R-D, when you see it in all caps, that's Yahweh, which means that he exists, or the existing one. That's the true name of our power, our Father. And the true name of his Son, which the world ignorantly calls Jesus, which these so-called white people turned into, you know, a so-called white man, so to speak, which he would be a dark melanated man if he walked the earth today. His name is Yahushai, which means that he's the Savior or deliverer in the Paleo-Hebrew, right? So it says, Genesis 25:23 again, and Yahweh said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. See? And we're that nation, we're the strongest nation on the planet. Because even, you know, being downtrodden, going through all these slaveries and going through all the shit that we've gone through, you know, just the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai having mercy on us, man. You know, we're still on a higher level than all these other nations, man. Nobody is dealing with us. You know, so just imagine when we go back to our original state, when we go back to our original state of being gods again. See, When we go back into having that real pure power, when our bodies are changed, when the law, statutes, and commandments are written on our minds and our hearts, right? But that one nation that's stronger than the other, that's us. We're stronger than Esau, and we're smarter than them as well. So brain power wise, we're stronger than them. Spiritually, we're stronger than them, you know. But they try and make it seem as if because they're in control of the world, they try and make it seem as if, you know, they're just so goddamn smart. And really, in reality, the Lord is the one that set them up. And what you're witnessing is the Lord actually breaking them down, because they're coming down. They falling pretty damn hard right now. It's not a good look for Esau. So again, I just saw this article and thought it would be interesting to do, because you know, new believers coming into this truth, you have to understand that seed line goes through the father. You got to get rid of everything that Esau told you about that biracial, multiracial shit. And matter of fact, the word biracial, it hasn't been in super duper use like that. It came into real use in or they, you know, when they came up with it, basically, and it became like a staple in American households, was in the 1970s. Is when they started using the terms biracial, multiracial, because other nations, they understand. Why you think these other nations don't want you to dealing with their daughters? Like, say for instance, like them Ishmaelites, them Arabs and shit like that, them, even so-called Chinese. They, you know, those other nations, man, they don't want us dealing with their daughters, because they understand mix. They want their pretty much their pedigree to just be straightforward, you know, them. You know, they don't want their seed being mingled. They don't want no child, because they understand that seed goes through the man. They know that. Now, you have a lot of these so-called white men and a lot of these so-called white women. They'll tell you straight up, you know, they'll tell you, I want my children by a so-called black man, because I want them to be melanated, because they're thinking of the future, you know, so to speak, you know, with climate change and all that little bullshit like that. But you have so-called white families. They'll sick their daughter on a Jake, man. If he's into sports, they see that he's about to, you know what I'm saying? Because they're trying to, because they understand that there's money at these sports, and all they need to do is get them a seed that they can get into football, basketball, or something like that. And we see it all the time, man. That shit happens on a day-to-day basis, man. These so-called white women, they smooth their asses in on you, act as if they love the shit out of you, take you home to mama and daddy. They act like they love the shit out of you, and they can't wait for you to, you know, to pump her ass up so you can have those children, because they understand that, okay, there's a possibility that they're gonna get a damn a sports star out of them, or some type of entertainer, or some type of singer, or something like that. Because they some of them do understand that we have that talent, and they understand that, you know, if they can get our seed within them. You know, Esau not stupid, man. Why do you think Esau was breeding mandingos with you know, certain slaves during slavery? So again, like I said, what he's saying as far as size wise, yeah, if a Jake was to get him a big thick ass white chick, yeah, them kids gonna turn out, you know what I'm saying, you know, on a they're gonna be taller, they're gonna be thicker, you know, have bigger legs, bigger arms, bigger necks, you know, shit like that. So he's correct in saying that, you know what I'm saying, on that end. But because that's what Esau used to do back in the days. Esau, he would get him, you know, 2 or 3 real big ass dudes, because the men would be worth the most, you know what I'm saying. They would spend more on the man, but they would get less of the men and more of the women. So they would get like 3 mandingos and get like 20 women and shit, man. They'll pump all them girls up, man, and then next thing you know, that's what they, you know, they call it chattel slavery. He's keeping them producing, and so he putting those particular men and women together, because they're gonna make big, you know, bigger field hands, stronger you know, workers, so to speak. And all they got to do is keep Jake stupid as hell, keep Jake docile, by using the so-called black woman to basically effeminize him, you know, and pretty much he's an effeminate, like a nigga like Shaq, man. That big ass dude, man, don't have no business being as soft as he is. Charles Barkley, you see how they talk, you know, but they making those millions. They gotta, you know, say certain things. They gotta talk a certain way. They can't just be out here like, you know, with a damn deep voice and scaring the shit out of everybody. A nigga like Shaq, man, come on, bro. He's just one of them. We talking about shit. The whole NFL is flooded with nothing but big ass dudes, man. So-called black men. Those used to be warriors back in the days. You know, NBA. Look at these dudes, man. 7'6", 7'7". You know what I'm saying? Motherfucker can jump from the 3-point line. You know, with them type of athletics, and that's what Esau sees, man. So I'm gonna end out there though. I do pray that this lesson was edifying. With that, Kwame Yashal and the Baba Boy. These comments though. It says, this person says everyone should stick with their own bottom line. It shouldn't have been any procreating. People do not know the harm they are causing their offspring, even if it skips a generation. Don't do it. See, this is somebody that's stupid as hell. They don't understand that the seed goes through the male. See, somebody says why the cute quarterback in the NFL is black and white. But see, they don't understand that he's really a so-called black man. He's not. That white shit don't have nothing to do with nothing. You know? Cause that talent, that again, that swag, man, that seasoning, so to speak, is within Jake, man. Anyway, though, I'm gonna end out there, man. Thought it would be a good subject to jump on, because our people do need to know this when you come into this truth. So with that, I do pray that this lesson was edifying. Kwame Yashal and the Baba Ball.